Hey there, legend. How you going? Before I start, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Christy KRC, who left a rating and review on Apple Podcasts recently, and the title is So Helpful and Real. And I saw that come up and I just went, yes, that's what I want to do. It means that me sitting here on my own in my little podcasting booth saying all this stuff, hopefully sharing knowledge that is useful and practical and relevant to you, it just made my heart explode. And the rest of the review goes, thanks for sharing your knowledge and experience. Loved the episode of ideas on how to save money. Yes, we all need to save money, and especially with weddings. Great wedding industry tips and tricks throughout. So I just wanted to shout out to you, Christy KRC, and say I just, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. The feedback loop is really not huge in podcasts. There's not that immediate feedback where someone can say to you or type back to you really quickly going, loved this, didn't like that, could you do this? And so that's why, I mean, of course you can post a fabulous review like that, but another way to get in contact with me, if you're wondering, is I think the easiest channel is on Instagram. So for me at least, so DM me your thoughts, ideas, questions, feedback, DM me on Instagram at Unbridely. And yeah, I'd love to say hey. But now getting back on track with what we're doing over the last 2 weeks. So last week in episode 82, how to work out if a charming backyard wedding is for you, I broke down all of the things that you need to consider before you decide to host your wedding in either your backyard or a very easygoing and generous friend or family member's backyard. We went through some of the pros and lots of the other elements you'd be really smart to think about and talk through with your fiancé and anyone else who have a major stake in pulling it all together before you give your weekends and bank balance away to the idea. So if you haven't had a listen to that episode yet, I would recommend that you start there in part 1, essentially, of the Backyard Wedding Special, which is episode 82, the one that was last week. And if you're still excited after listening to that and talking through the points with your fiancé, then come back and I'll give you the keys to the car right here in episode 83. Because, mate, backyard weddings are not for the faint of heart. But that said, they can be as simple as a shared meal to a full-scale celebratory festival-style extravaganza, so it all depends on the scale and formality that you choose to go with. And then this will also be directly proportional to the complexities, coordination skills that you or your hired planner and or coordinator have, and the cost. More people, more bells and whistles, more planning, more cost. So the more extra you make this, the more it's going to cost you. I'm going to assume, because you're here, you're listening to this, that there's no stopping you now. Congrats. So today I'm going to share with you the task list that you're going to need to work through to make this magic happen with the least amount of angst, stress, and sleepless nights possible. And peppered into this episode are gold nuggets of backyard wedding planning advice from couples who have already done it themselves. These are so incredibly valuable because they've come from the perspective of those who have been in the trenches and lived to tell the tale. And make sure you stay listening to the end for some additional expert tips from planner, coordinator, and stylist of 12 years, Nicole Bailey of Your Event Plannery, to help you pull this backyard wedding baby of yours together. Let's get stuck into it. Unbridely is a community of pro wedding vendors who believe in freedom and integrity in weddings, giving you options, solutions, tips and tricks to create the experience and memories that you and your fiancé really want and deserve. Because we believe that weddings are a team sport. With how-tos, stories and interviews with recently married couples, we find out what went right and what they'd change if they could go back and do it all over again. I'm Camille and welcome to the Unbridely podcast. All right, beautiful. Let's not muck around. To start with, you're going to need to do some serious prepping and planning. And there's no substitute for experience in this regard. You're going to want to call in the pros as early as possible. What? I heard you. Who? Why? I'm talking about your planner, if you're having one, and if you're not, why aren't you? Your coordinator, if you're having one, and if you're not, who is doing that? Your caterer, your photographer or band DJ doing a site visit, walking in physically into your backyard or whoever's backyard it is, and sussing out, sometimes quite literally, the lay of the land. The need for this will all depend on how many people you're inviting and your budget, but consider what these professionals can save you with a short visit to your place. They're going to be able to tell you about your space and your layout. So every vendor needs to understand the layout and dimensions of the backyard to plan their setup properly. This might include determining the best locations for things like the ceremony area, your reception tent, the catering station, the dance floor, and the stage for musicians or your DJ. And by visiting the site, we call it site, but the backyard in person, your vendors can visualize how everything will fit together and make recommendations to you for optimizing what you've got to work with. They might also be able to identify potential challenges. And this in-person site visit allows your vendors to perhaps anticipate any little red flags, logistical challenges, or limitations because of your backyard that may affect their services. An example might be, issues with uneven land, grass, different levels from decking to paving to gravel, limited access for equipment for bump in, for bump out, lack of power outlets, or noise restrictions imposed by neighbours or local ordinances. Addressing these challenges early helps your vendors to come up with appropriate solutions and contingency plans from the beginning. You don't want these things to be cropping up halfway through and having to change your plans. It takes so much time, energy, and emotional effort to do that. Get them in at the start. The other thing that the professionals can do is help you understand lighting and ambience. Ambience. How it looks and feels. So photographers and lighting specialists, they benefit from seeing the backyard firsthand to go, okay, what are the natural lighting conditions? Maybe in sunshine. What happens when there's cloud? What have we got here? And perhaps potential lighting setups for photography. This means that they're able to capture the best shots and create the atmosphere that you really want for your wedding day. Because having little dark corners is not a problem when you don't have 50, 60, 70, 80 people in your backyard. They're just little dark corners. It's where the dog goes to poo. But when you do have increased numbers of people that you're hoping to have feel comfortable and relaxed and enjoying the space, you're going to need to think about lighting. Having the pros in early also helps you with coordination and collaboration. So working with your vendors during a site visit increases the likelihood that you're going to have better communication amongst all the parties involved in the wedding. It gives your vendors the chance to discuss their specific requirements and their preferences, which sometimes it's just how they work. Sometimes those preferences come from years and years of seeing things go wrong. You can harness and take advantage of that amazing experience. They can also coordinate timelines and logistics better to make sure you've got a seamless flow of events on your wedding day. By seeing your backyard in person, they can also tailor their services to the unique characteristics of the space and your vision. So, for example, a caterer might adjust their menu options based on the available kitchen facilities. This is not something you want to be finding out a month or two out, that everything that you hoped to serve to your friends and family can't be made, can't be prepared, there isn't the room or there isn't the oven space, etc., etc. And while a band or DJ, they might recommend certain sound equipment that's suitable for outdoor use, it might mean that it just sounds better and that you're not going to blast away your neighbourhood. Very important. Having the pros in early as well means that your vendors get a chance to demonstrate their professionalism and commitment to your wedding. They get to reassure you that they're experienced and they're prepared because they've seen what they've got to work with before the big day rocks up. Having this site visit right at the very start will also give you peace of mind. It'll help you to sleep better at night, knowing that your vendors have a thorough understanding of the space and how that might impact the specific requirements they have to deliver what you need. Now, in this planning and prepping mode, you've got to be considering this garden, this backyard. Whether you choose to DIY and get busy with the hedge trimmers or hire a pro, you want your garden to look its best. And it's ideal to start looking at maybe planting new plants, trees, bushes, ground covers, whatever it might be, grass, and landscaping at least 6 months in advance, because there are always delays and it might take a while for plants to become settled in, for grass to really take root, and you don't want a bunch of your friends walking through your beautiful new grass that's only been there for a month with their high heel shoes ripping the whole stuff up. You want whatever that you've done to improve your backyard to be mature, to be able to hopefully handle some of this traffic that's coming through. Talk to your wedding planner, your hire company, rental company, or your caterer about the event layout before you or anyone else starts to work in the garden too. Because sometimes there are tables, access and prep areas that need to be taken into consideration. There might be a different layout plan that they would recommend to maximise the use of space. And the last thing you want to do is be piling hundreds of dollars worth of plants in there to have it blocked off by the portaloos or a catering tent. You're going to be thinking about your guests' experience and making sure, and this is, planner and coordinator territory for sure. It depends on whether or not you're going to hire someone to really work this out for you. But in a traditional venue, in an event space, a planner is making sure there's plenty of spots for people to sit in, stand in, move through, keeping in mind more mature relatives who might prefer a proper chair to feel comfortable. And this is why when you look at a function space, an event space, you might see little nooks. You see little nests of chairs all together. And that's for people to sit in and to chat and to socialize. So you might want to bring in some beautiful, comfy furniture for a little tea and chat nook to one side in your garden. And then, back on the traffic idea. So protecting your garden. Think about those high heels. It will not just aerate your lawn and your turf and whatever else you got on the ground there. It can look like a well-worn horse racing track afterwards. And think about your guests' ankles. If they choose to go against your advice and wear sky-high heels, that and low lighting can be a recipe for disaster. Think about having a dance floor. It's a denoted space. It can really help to keep your guests where you want them. Because otherwise, generally when there's a dance floor, people will dance on the dance floor. And it just means that they're dancing on a level surface. It sounds really simple, but it can help with crowd management and potential for injuries. And with those different zones in your backyard, a casual seated chill out area away from the dance floor and the tables where people are eating, it gives your guests a chance to relax and to chat and plan the flow of how people will move through your garden, because the risk is that everyone will cluster in one spot as they arrive. So have seating or games or a photo booth set up at other sides of the garden from where they enter to attract people into a different area. You want to lure your guests in there so then they can move about freely and it feels good. Take a look at your guest list. Work out how many children might be attending. It's well worth considering just a small tent, little bell tent could be cute, or a game area away from the main festivities to keep them occupied, happy, and safe while their parents get to enjoy themselves as well. And all wrapped up in the planning and prepping is making sure you're complying with your local council or city event requirements. Find out if local noise ordinances require a permit. Bring in an electrician to check that everything's up to date, tested, tagged, safe. The last gatecrasher you want to entertain at your wedding is the emergency services. Do this right, do it early. And the next part you need to be working through, chatting with is your neighbours. Whether it's loud music after hours or the number of cars parked outside your home, down your street, your neighbours, especially if they're not aware of what's going on, I mean, it's fair enough. They may make complaints or worse, call the police. So talk to them. Send them a little note in their letterbox well ahead of time. Let them know what you have in mind. Let them know the times as well and what you're going to do to make sure that your celebration doesn't spill into their life more than it has to. Make compromises wherever you can. I said it in part 1 of the Backyard Weddings episodes. When you plant a seed with your neighbours, then that can allow you to have a bit of give and take later. So invest in making sure your neighbours are aware and that they're happy. Some other considerations. So some of your guests may try to stay at your house before or after your wedding. Yeah, bless them. Some people just don't know where the boundaries are. So my best advice would be to get ahead of the curve. I guess it depends on your age and your circumstances, whether or not you have children before you get married and things like that. But I would think 8 to 9 times out of 10, you don't want people there. You're going to need your space. You're going to need to be able to think clearly, have things laid out in your family room, your lounge room, whatever. So then you can not be hampered with what you're doing by having your host hat on for people who have come in from interstate overseas. Get ahead of this by making sure to recommend local accommodation and encourage your guests to book in advance. You still haven't written your vows yet, have you? Let me help. In around 20 minutes or so, you can easily write personalised wedding vows unlike anything you've heard before that will make your fiancé feel like the most loved, understood and appreciated person on the planet. The How to Write Wedding Vows That Don't Suck instant download 17-page PDF ebook walks you through a step-by-step format for your vows, how to find the right words and phrases to describe your feelings and your fiancé, how to write that crucial first draft and create your final wedding vows masterpiece. So if you don't know how or even where to start, if you've been Googling your little heart out, or if you've been calling them wedding vows, AEIOU, this ebook is for you. Included in there are also some bonus secrets for getting the most out of your wedding ceremony. So make sure you download your copy right now and get Write Your Wedding Vows crossed off your to-do list today. The link is in the show notes. Also, have a think about your pets. So you might want to have them taken care of off-site or somewhere safe and a little bit more quiet, maybe by a neighbour or a wedding pet attendant. The extra people, the noise and the activity that a wedding generates is generally too much stress for most animals to cope with. And the last thing you want to be doing the morning after your wedding is searching for your runaway fur baby. Past bride Simone recommends that you should ask everyone, all of your guests, to wear flat shoes, that your gorgeous garden will thank you. Emily says, make the use of local suppliers and vendors, as it may save you a lot in travel fees and extra charges, and make the most of op shops. Diana has a bit of gold here. Make sure that you have complimentary blankets for everyone if you have outdoor seating. So just being able to sit there with a little blanket over you, and you can rent them out. It's just that little bit of extra comfort, and it's super appreciated by your guests. And this bit of advice comes from Natasha. Book somewhere to stay for the night, like not your house. This really depends on what kind of party people you are, but we were so glad we booked a hotel for the night. We organised for a friend to stay at the house with my nieces to make sure everything got locked up, but we had a hotel room booked and we left at 11:30 p.m. We found out the next day that a group of our friends stayed dancing until about 3:30 a.m. and having long conversations with our parents while we were fast asleep in our bed. We loved that people would just relax and could enjoy their night without having to rush out the door as soon as we left the building. I love that, Natasha. That's brilliant. And Simone's back. More stuff about the garden. Get your bugs under control. Our wedding is in the evening, so we're paranoid about the mozzies. Do you know what mozzies are? Mosquitoes, sorry. Here in Australia, we call mosquitoes mozzies. So we're trialling the mozzie patches that people can put on their clothing, but we'll also have a serious look at where they're coming from. So, looking for any still water lying around and hoping to solve it in the next few months. I'm sure that's something that a lot of people don't think about, Simone, so thank you. The next stage of your planning is delegating and hiring. So people power is, I reckon, by far your most valuable asset with a backyard wedding. And Catherine says it's a time to bring in favours from friends and family, a small job so people don't feel like they're missing the wedding and instead they feel like they're being helpful. But when you give everyone just a small job, things get done. And hiring a cleaning crew, let's put this right at the top, it might be the best decision you'll make. In the days leading up to your wedding, I can't imagine that high on your list will be, let's scrub the house. Let's give it a really good deep clean. You don't want to be doing that. You don't want your friends to be doing that. You don't want your parents to be doing that. Hire a cleaning crew before everyone rocks up. And then for the day of, you'll need helpers. So wait staff, bar staff, and or your wedding coordinator to cover all the basics of setting up, cooking, serving, cleaning up. Talk to your caterer or planner about how many staff you need to make sure that the day runs really smoothly. And will the staff stay as long as the food is served, or can they work until the end of the night? Can they also be the cleaning up crew? And while choosing to have a serviced bar, someone literally standing there protecting the alcohol with their responsible service of alcohol certificate, you might decide to set up a drinks table and let your guests just serve themselves. And this can be particularly handy if you're planning a late night celebration that will go on after an 11 o'clock, 12 a.m. finishing time. Now, hiring staff. I know all of the wedding vendors that listen to the Unbridely podcast, everyone I work with, we highly recommend hiring or renting a teepee, a marquee, or a tent. Because not only will it be a lifesaver should you have less than ideal weather on your day, but it will also protect you, your guests, your table, your lights, your decorations, DJ or band, and flowers from too much sun or even a light breeze will really batter things around. By lighting it up, it makes a massive difference to light up your tent, marquee, or teepee in a big way for maximum impact. Have a think about renting hanging lights, string lights, diffuse spotlights. It might be Chinese lanterns or electric candles. We're thinking about safety here. There are so many options to create a beautiful atmosphere with lighting in a backyard wedding. So the entrance that your guests are walking through, the pathways, spotlights, uplights, under signs, food and drinks tables, your trees, bushes, etc. The list goes on. You can go overboard, but it can make a really big difference and a massive impact. Make sure you're renting your tables and chairs from a rental company, hire company who will deliver, set up, and take down and pick up as well. So bump in, bump out, and in between. The time, strength, and effort to do that is not worth the little extra price you pay. Get them to come in and do it. Believe me. Depending on the time of year and your location, will your guests be more comfortable with some heaters or some fans? Depends on how formal you're going, depends on whether or not you've got a space with closed sides or not. Have a think about that. Go through the plan for your day from start to finish and make sure you have more than enough tableware and glassware to cover every course, every drink, every toast. And don't forget any cutlery that's used for serving. So, if you have a buffet style or family style where there's big platters in the middle of the table, don't forget those implements, your little tongs, your salad servers, your big spoons. Don't forget those. And salt and pepper shakers, linen. You might need that too. With those hire items, have a chat to your rental company about the cleanup of them, because some are fine to take them back completely unwashed. You put them back in the glasses box and send them back, and they're happy with that. Some need to have things washed. So washing, counting, carefully wrapping up, 150 plates, 150 times pieces of each cutlery and glassware the next morning. Massive downer. Work that out first before you start putting down booking fees and deposits. Outdoor games in your backyard are brilliant. The backyard is where you play soccer, footy, cricket, right? So big outdoor games like giant Jenga or bocce, badminton, brilliant icebreakers for your guests, if you've got the room, of course, in your backyard. And hire a couple of your favourites, sign them up well, and watch your family and friends just light up. And for portaloos, portable toilets, keep in mind that area will need to be well lit too. There's so much potential for little accidents, for slips, for things like that. There are single stall toilets and more upscale portable bathrooms available with lighting and sinks and heated water and even air conditioning. So depending on the scale, again, the formality, choose your portaloos smartly and make sure they're lit up. And then lastly is buying the stuff you're going to need. So making sure you stock up on more drinks than you think you'll need. Keeping in mind that if it's a hot day, you might find your red wine drinkers opt for some white wine or beer. Certain drink stores, ask around. Here in Australia, it's the Dan Murphy's chain. They allow you to over-order and then return unopened cartons that you don't use, which is a godsend for people who are doing this, for people who are doing their backyard weddings. Whether you've got a serviced bar or not, don't forget drinking water, ice, garnishes, and soft drink or non-alcoholic options as well. And then the lovely Nicole Bailey of Your Event Plannery, she has these additional expert tips to help you plan your very own backyard wedding the best way possible, being prepared. So she says, when you hire your portaloos, your portable toilets, remember to stock them well with toilet paper, hand towels or paper towels, of course, soap. It's something that's sometimes overlooked and people go through a lot of that. I'm sure, come 10:30, 11 o'clock, you don't want to be rummaging around in the house trying to find some extra toilet paper. So make sure there's heaps of stock there. Also, have everything ready for your guests to access without having to come to you with 100 questions or, worse still, go inside your house to try and find things. Have things ready to go. Something that you might not think about is making sure you create space and you leave pathways clear for your guests to be able to move in and out about freely. With your bar set up, make sure it's well stocked so that if your guests are helping themselves, if it's a DIY bar, they can get what they want and head back to enjoying your wedding. For self-service drink stations, think reusable glassware, bottles of beer, ciders, stubby holders, all of those things they're going to need. Nicole also recommends that you get help where you need it, and that an on-the-day coordinator is perfect for at-home weddings. They can supervise the setup of all of the services you've got booked, and that way you can enjoy being the soon-to-be wed in peace without being interrupted with a million questions as you're trying to get ready. Nicole also advises that making sure your caterers have enough space to spread out is important. It'll need to be undercover or in your kitchen, so be prepared for that. She also says that having some bar staff to monitor how much your guests are drinking and collect and clean up the glassware if you need it. You can hire bar staff from a range of different places, and it will save you time later on with the cleanup. So if you can clean as you go, highly recommended. For your guest parking, again, she says be aware of your local restrictions. But another way to make sure that everything goes smoothly is to let your guests know, maybe not on the invitation itself, but on an insert on your wedding website, let them know where you want them to park. They will just try and find anywhere if you don't give them some guidance. Or you could organise a bus to drop them off and pick them up from a central location. And this will give your family and friends a chance to really enjoy the night, and it causes less chaos on your street as well. Phew, how you going? I know that was a lot. There are so many different aspects in there. And so just to refresh your memory on the major points, number 1 was prep and plan. Get your vendors on board early, and then you can benefit from their experience and expertise. I promise it will save you time, frustration, and many dollar bucks later down the track. Number 2, your neighbours. Get them on side. Work out how you can work together to make sure that everyone around you is pulling in the same direction on your wedding day. Number 3 is delegate and hire. So whether it's friends or family that you're going to give little jobs to, or whether it's bringing in wait staff, catering staff, cleaning up staff, a coordinator, make sure that you have enough people on the ground to make this thing a reality and it all doesn't fall on your shoulders. And number 4, buy stuff. Buy great stuff. Make sure it's the stuff that you want. Serve the stuff that you love. Have the cocktail, the special cocktail, get it done up in big dispensing machines. Have it there ready to go. Make sure everyone enjoys your flavour, quite literally. And if you're planning a backyard wedding, I would love to chat with you about it, either during your planning process or after it's all said and done, and you can look back and go, okay, learned this, learned that, but loved this. Please feel free to drop me a message, to drop me a DM on Instagram @unbridely, and I can't wait to chat with you again real soon. That about wraps it up for this episode of the Unbridely podcast. For the links and resources we mentioned, please head to the show notes. And if you love the show, please review and subscribe on the podcast platform you're on now so you don't miss out on a single episode. Thanks so much for listening. And remember, weddings are a team sport. Catch you soon.